Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a technique that is kind of quietly completely changing the game for how we work with AI. It's called prompt chaining, and believe me, it is the secret to getting AI to tackle really complex, multi-step problems with way more reliability.
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You craft this long, super detailed request. You hit send, and the AI just ignores half of what you said. Or it gets totally lost somewhere in the middle. It's a super common frustration, and it really shows you the limits of just asking for one giant thing all at once. So here's the plan for today. First, we're going to diagnose what I like to call the monolithic prompt problem. Then we'll get into the solution, the power of chaining. After that, we'll see it in action with some really cool examples. And finally, we'll look to the future with this big idea called context engineering.
All right, so let's jump right in with part one, the monolithic prompt problem. Why is it that when we give an AI one single massive task, it so often just falls apart?
Well, the thing is, a single complex prompt puts a huge strain on the model, and that leads to a few classic failures. First, you've got instruction neglect, which is basically when the AI just straight up ignores parts of your request. Then there's contextual drift, where it starts off great but kind of forgets the main point halfway through. Any tiny mistake at the beginning can snowball thanks to error propagation. And all that mental juggling just increases the chance of hallucination, where the AI just starts making stuff up. So check out this example. This one single request. It's actually 4 totally separate jobs pretending to be one. You're asking it to analyze, summarize, identify trends, and draft an email. The AI might give you a decent summary, sure, but then it totally misses the key trends or writes an email with a completely wrong tone. It's just too much to handle at once. So, if that big single prompt is the problem, what's the fix? Let's move on and see how to build a better way. This is all about the power of chaining, a true divide-and-conquer strategy.
At its core, prompt chaining is actually super simple. Instead of that one giant ask, you break the problem down into a series of smaller, really focused steps. Think of it like a little assembly line. And the most important part is that the output from one step gets passed on as the input for the very next one. It creates this perfect logical flow.
And this slide really lays it all out. A monolithic prompt is basically a black box. When it breaks, you're just left scratching your head. But a prompt chain? It's modular. Each step is its own little task, which makes the whole process way more reliable, more accurate, and, this is huge, so much easier to fix if one part goes wrong.
Okay, let's go back to that example that failed before, but now let's build it as a chain. Step 1, we ask the AI only to summarize the report. That is its one and only job. Step 2, we take that clean summary and ask it to find the top 3 trends and pull out the data. Again, just one focused task. And finally, step 3, we feed it those trends in that data and we ask it to write the email. See? Each step is simple, logical, and it builds on the one before it.
Okay, but here's the thing, and this is super important. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. That handoff of information between each step has to be flawless. If the output from step 1 is messy or confusing, step 2 is pretty much guaranteed to fail.
So how do we make sure that handoff is clean? We tell the AI to structure its output in a way a machine can easily read, like JSON. So instead of a messy paragraph, the trend analysis from step 2 could spit out this perfectly structured JSON object. It gets rid of all the ambiguity and lets the next step know exactly what it's getting.
All right, so now that we've got the theory down, let's move on and see how this amazing pattern is actually being used out in the wild. This is where it gets really, really cool. And applications are everywhere. This isn't some niche academic idea. It's being used for everything from doing complex research and writing articles to generating and even debugging code. It's the engine that's making chatbots smarter and building tools that can reason across both text and images.
Let's break this one down, for instance. Instead of just throwing that whole question at the AI, a chain deconstructs it. First, it figures out there are 2 parts, causes and response. Then, it's like it launches 2 little research bots, one to find the causes, another to find the response. And finally, a third step acts like an editor, pulling it all together into one solid answer. It's methodical, it's robust, and it's way less likely to miss key details.
And this isn't just something you have to do by hand, copying and pasting between chat windows. Developers are building these incredible pipelines using powerful frameworks like LangChain, which are designed specifically for this kind of complex, multi-step work.
In fact, if you look at a snippet of code from LangChain, you can literally see it in action. You can see how the output of one process, the extraction chain, is fed, or piped, as that little vertical line means, right into the next one. This is how developers are snapping together simple tools to build incredibly sophisticated AI systems.
All right, for our last section, let's look at where all this is heading. Because this simple idea of chaining is really evolving into something much, much bigger. We're actually moving from just engineering the prompt to engineering the AI's entire context.
And that brings us to this big idea: context engineering. So the goal here isn't just to ask the perfect question. It's to design the whole informational world that the AI lives in. It's about giving it all the background info, all the right tools, and all the data it needs to really understand the task at hand.
This slide really nails the difference. Prompt engineering is tactical. It's about getting one question just right. Context engineering is strategic. It's about building an entire world for the AI to operate in, making it truly aware of the situation.
So what actually goes into this rich context? Well, it starts with the system prompt that gives the AI a role, like, you are a helpful travel agent. It includes retrieve documents, maybe pulling up flight data from a database. It can use tool outputs, like checking a calendar for when you're free. And it can even use implicit data, like your past travel history. All of this information gets loaded in before the AI even tries to answer your question. Okay, so let's boil all of this down to the key things to remember. Number 1, prompt chaining breaks huge tasks into small, manageable steps. This makes things way more reliable because it's less of a strain on the AI. Remember, using structured data like JSON is absolutely key for those clean handoffs. And finally, this whole idea is the foundation for building the really smart AI agents of the future.
So if you take just one thing away from all this, let it be this: prompt chaining is so much more than a clever trick. It's a fundamental change in how we get AI to solve problems. It turns these overwhelming requests into a simple series of achievable steps, and that unlocks a whole new level of power and reliability. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. As this pattern becomes the standard way we build complex systems, how will the AI agents built on top of it start to plan, to reason, and to act, not just in response to us, but as proactive partners in our world? It's pretty fascinating to think about. Thanks for watching.